having the security and just peace of mind that the website's taken care of, and when issues happen, there's someone that you can turn to and someone that you can just shoot off an email and we'll get back to you really quick and sort that out for you. Like, that's definitely another big thing that we do for people, and something that I've really focused on, and being something that I differentiate our service from other developers, because that's something that I heard as a big complaint, a big problem that a lot of people had, was they have these developers that don't get back to them for 2 weeks. And so when something breaks on their website, they're pulling their hair out, they don't know what to do. The developer doesn't help them. And so, yeah, that was a pain point for a lot of people. So focusing on quick response and just being there as the we've got your back kind of thing, so you can just focus on doing what you're good at doing, and bringing in clients and creating content and building assets and that sort of thing.
Hey guys, Steph Roberts here. Welcome to the Audacious Mama Show. And we just did the interview, and at the end I was asking him about his family, and I just realized he really is an audacious dad. So he does WordPress work. And I know that the majority of the people probably listening to this, if you're listening and you have a website, most likely, if it's not on one of the other alternatives, it's probably on WordPress. So we talk a lot about WordPress. We talk about, now that I know he has a family, he and his team have been doing work for me. I have my new website on something called 10X Pro. So his company is called TunedWP and Tuned10X. And so we talk about WordPress. We talk about how to get ready for changes potentially with Google, with SEO, how to tune your website related to images, loading speed, mobile. And the mobile experience, if you're not aware of this, is the most important thing that Google is looking at in terms of ranking you with your SEO. It's not even looking at the desktop experience anymore. So this is huge. You got to listen to that. And if you happen to be somebody who's on WordPress and you're considering a membership site, please, please, please listen to this. You might want to zip ahead a little bit. I'll see if I can put that in the show notes, the actual timing, but it's really important to think about whether or not WordPress is the right solution for you if you have a membership site. So he goes into why that is, and he's also explaining why he started helping with 10X Pro, which is the site that I have, and I'm going to have a membership site, courses, all of that. I had to go much bigger, and I wanted an all-in-one solution, which is what 10X Pro does. So we talk a tiny bit about 10X Pro. I'll get into that on another episode. This main thing is really just for anybody who's got WordPress, just what you need to think about with your website. He goes into both the page speed, load, Google, SEO, plugin issues that come up with security and other things like that. It's not scary. He's just giving you some ideas for things to think about and some quick tips. And what I really like is the way that he structured his business. It's a monthly membership. So basically, instead of scrambling because you found out from your hosting company that you've been hacked or there's some big issue with something going on your website, in trying to find a web developer, or you have a web developer who like ghosts you and lands in another country and you can't find them, which has happened to me. You've got one company that's super stable. They have super high integrity. They are available 24/7 via email. So I just was like, Justin, we got to get you on. So his name is Justin, and it's Justin Meadows. It's Tuned10X, TunedWP, and he is an audacious dad. He actually is a single dad, full-time single dad. And so he talks about the business structure and how that has helped him. So anyway, without further ado, I hope that there is stuff here that can help you with your business. Again, if you're thinking about a membership, or you're already on WordPress, or you're not sure whether you even need a website, please tune into this episode. I think you're going to find it really helpful. And without further ado. And since we did that interview, one of the things that came out is a study related to personal branding and how people make decisions on like who they're going to make purchases from. And one of the things that they determined was, out of this study, they found that people do research. and they're often looking to see what your values are, who you are as a company, especially if you're a smaller company or a service provider. And one of the main things that they look at is whether you have a nice website. The other thing is they found out that on par with a New York Times bestseller, a self-published book, or just having a book published, period, is a blog post, is right on par with all those things. So those two things, having a website and having some sort of blog where you share your opinions and values, is super important to people when they're determining whether they want to work with you. Who knew? Seriously, I wish I knew this before the interview with Justin, but I want you to keep this in mind when you listen to this interview, because yes, we do talk about that. Do we need a website? So just wanted to share that with you, and without further ado, here is the rest of the episode. Enjoy. Audacious Mama Show, but you shared with me that you have been doing a lot of parenting and balancing that with your business. So what's your deal?
So I'm not an audacious mama, but I could call myself an audacious dad, I guess. For around 6 years, I've been full-time single dad, and so I've been managing the house, looking after the kids, raising them, and running my business on the side. And so I'm really grateful that I built the business that I've got, because it allows me to do that and to work my hours around the kids' school and that sort of thing. And definitely with all the lockdowns we've been having in Australia, like managing the kids' schooling from home and that sort of thing has been definitely a challenge.
I can imagine. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been through it myself, but I know Australia's getting worse, not better, from what I've heard. Is
our lockdowns are just starting to finish now, but yeah, we've had a lot more lockdowns than most of the rest of the world, I think. But yeah, so originally I had started just after I sort of started on this business journey shortly after my first son was born, and I really wanted to create that business that allowed me to work from home and spend more time with the kids, and also to be able to travel and that sort of thing. But that having that flexibility is definitely what I wanted, and that's definitely something I'm 100% grateful for. And it's not been an easy road. There's definitely heaps of challenges. But it's well and truly worth it.
And so how old are your kids? You were just telling me and I cut you off.
Yeah, they're 13 and 11.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have one of those 13-year-olds. Is it a girl or a boy?
Boy. Yeah, I've got 2 boys.
Oh, 2 boys. Okay, I have 2 girls. So I always thought I'd have 2 boys, but my daughters have a lot of boy energy. It's like
awesome.
Not quite the same. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that I asked you that question instead of ending this. That's awesome that it's worked out for you. And it's kind of proof in the pudding that it does make sense to be an entrepreneur especially when you're a single parent. I think it just gives you way more flexibility to do all the things you need to do, even when there's no lockdown. But I mean, obviously, especially in lockdown, it just feels completely different. It feels like you have some agency over your life instead of, listening to the man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great having that control and flexibility to do things the way you want to do them, and to be able to adjust to what life throws at you.
Exactly. Yeah. Pivot.
Exactly.
Those big pivots that happen more than you would like. I don't know, jump in. What are your thoughts on why, I guess, someone would want to work with you?
Yeah, so I think the main thing we help out people with is getting rid of the tech hassles of looking after a website and running a business. That's definitely the biggest thing. The other thing is having the security and just peace of mind that the website's taken care of, and when issues happen, there's someone that you can turn to and someone that you can just shoot off an email and we'll get back to you really quick and sort that out for you. Like, that's definitely another big thing that we do for people, and something that I've really focused on, and being something that I differentiate our service from other developers, because that's something that I heard as a big complaint, a big problem that a lot of people had, was they have these developers that don't get back to them for 2 weeks. And so when something breaks on their website, they're pulling their hair out. They don't know what to do. The developer doesn't help them. And so, yeah, that was a pain point for a lot of people. So focusing on quick response and just being there as the we've got your back kind of thing. So you can just focus on doing what you're good at doing and bringing in clients and creating content and building assets and that sort of thing. And then another thing we do is just also to help improve the performance of people's websites. So quite often there's small tweaks and changes that can be made that are going to make a difference to your bottom line, especially once your websites and your business is up and running and you know that you're onto a winner and you're starting to spend money on advertising and bringing people in, putting a lot of effort into marketing and getting eyes on your website, making sure that website then converts to as many sales as possible.
Right. So when you're sending a lot of traffic to the site, what are the kinds of things that people typically run into that they wouldn't know until it's kind of too late? Like, is the website shutting down, or what are some of the things that people might not be aware of once they start buying Facebook ads and they're getting paid traffic, or they're just doing really well with organic traffic? What kinds of things do they run into with their sites?
I think the main things that people are like, sometimes it takes a while or it takes a lot of digging to find that people are arriving at your site and being turned off by it for some reason. And some of that you might not think that they are, but it's something that you only find out the hard way after you've spent a lot of money on it. Wow. and some of the common causes for that would be things like having a bad experience. So, and yeah, a common one is the mobile experience. So, and that's something that a lot of people, they when the designers and the developers, when they build their website, they just only ever look at it on a desktop. And as a business owner, you're always at your desktop when you're looking at your website. And so quite often that mobile experience is completely neglected, and you don't realize that most of your customers are coming to you from Facebook when they're on their phone, sitting on a couch, and and they're distracted, because the kid's trying to eat something he's not supposed to, or they're watching Netflix as well, or whatever it is, and so they're kind of half paying attention. And when they arrive at your website, it doesn't have what they're expected, or it's not showing them what they are looking for, and so they just go stuff this and hit back, and you've lost them.
Yeah, or it's funny because I remember commuting into Boston by train, and the Wi-Fi was so unpredictable, but I would be on my phone and I would be like, you get something that you're like, okay, yeah, I want to look at that, or I want to download that, or opt into something. And then it's, you're waiting, it's not loading. It's a Wi-Fi thing, but it's also the weight, the heaviness of those mobile sites. There's not a specific eye toward how do we make this lightweight and easy to load on mobile. Is that something that you guys do? Your business is called, we should say, TunedWP and Tuned10X. Is it 10X? Yeah. Yeah,
Tuned10X.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so absolutely tuning up, tuning up the website to perform better is the idea behind the name. And speed is a big part of that. And speed has been a big focus of Google in particular. And so that sort of makes it a big focus of all of the internet, because when Google say website should be like this, everyone jumps. And there's a good reason for it, because the experience that people are expecting now, as you're saying, is just that the website should load fast, and if it is too slow, you just give up. And apart from just giving up, because people are more and more impatient, but it's not just about being impatient with the internet these days, it's also people are more distracted. There's people are trying to do more things while they're browsing the internet. And so, like you're saying, when you're on the train, say you just arrived at your stop and it hasn't loaded yet, well, that's game over. You're never going to go back to that
website. I'm pretty tenacious. I try, and then I'm like, what? This is like my 5th time. I really want this thing. That actually just happened to me this weekend with somebody I know. She had a beautiful launch. She had this brand new opt-in that I really wanted, and it was through email. The email was beautiful. Everything she does, she's a marketing person. Something happened, and when I opted in, when I got to the actual website, kept clicking clicking to download, click, click, click. And it just
Yeah.
didn't download. And it's like, you just need people to like test your stuff, I guess, is the bottom line too.
Yeah, and it is worth it. That's one quick tip for any people listening that have a website. Have a look at it on your phone, browse through, see if you can try and buy something from yourself. You know, go through the checkout, make sure all the things can be clicked on, sign up for your email list, you know, whatever it is. Just use the website as you are hoping that your users are using it, and make sure it's a good experience on your phone.
Yeah, and also one thing I think people should do too is if they can borrow their family member's device, laptop, phone, whatever, because of cookies. Because I don't think that if you own a website and you've already opted in, or whatever, you might not see the intrusive pop-up that's preventing you from buying the thing.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, another thing just along that line is just asking a few friends to check it out and get their feedback on how it seems to them, because sometimes you can be too close to it as the business owner, and you can think it's obvious that that's the thing they should click on, but it might not be to some people.
Oh, that's really helpful. And so we just jumped in and we're chatting here, but one of the things that that I think is different. So, I'm in all these women's groups. This is how we got on this conversation, really. And I said, you got to come on, was because my personal experience with my websites, especially my WordPress sites, was I'd hire somebody to get the site up and running or tweak it because there was a change or whatever. And then they would ghost me or disappear, end up in another country. And I couldn't find them or whatever. And they, a lot of times they came really well recommended, or, we try to hire within. So a lot of us in these women's groups will try to hire other women. Nothing against women who are techies or whatever. But I mean, like, sometimes I'm like, okay, even then they're still ghosting you, right? So this idea of only needing somebody when you really, really need them at a critical time is not the best approach, the Band-Aid approach. So what you said early on was like having somebody that you can rely on and easily connect with. So what is the way that you've set up your service? I know it's like a monthly thing. I'll let you describe it because I think it's cool.
Yeah, sure. So it's a monthly service that we've got. Our email support desk is 24/7, so that wherever you are in the world, we've got clients all over the globe, and you can send us an email. We'll get back to you within an hour. If things can be done immediately, they're just done immediately, so you don't need to worry about it. And so it covers all the small changes, fixing issues, and minor adjustments, that sort of stuff. So you just shoot us an email, we get it done. The other part of our service is that every month we're taking a look at your website and seeing where are some areas for improvement. Are there any issues with the site? Are there any things that are happening with WordPress where we're updating the software? And we do things like looking at your Google Search Console to see if Google thinks there's any problems with your website, that sort of stuff. So we look, apart from just reacting quickly to when you ask us for help, we're also seeing how we can improve your site and make sure that there's no issues every month. So quite often we can catch things before you find out that they're a problem.
That's awesome. So you're proactively kind of poking around in there just to see. And you also, I assume you also know, well, you're looking at the WordPress changes if somebody has WordPress, but you're also up on some of the Google. I've heard there's some Google changes related to SEO. Is that something that people should know about?
Yeah, definitely. And there's always new changes coming out, and we are across those changes. We also work with a lot of SEO consultants who send their clients to us because for improving their SEO, they need to do a lot of work on the website, and so the SEO guys hand them over to us because they're not developers, they're not WordPress guys, and so we quite often get the heads up from them about Google changes coming along with Google and that sort of thing. The biggest change that has happened this year has been around speed. So Google have really been focusing on the speed and also the mobile experience. So both of those two things have been the big changes this year that they've made in their algorithm. So now Google doesn't actually care about the desktop layout of your website at all. And if you have things on your desktop that are different from the mobile experience, then the desktop stuff is just ignored. Google only looks at the phone version, only looks at your website as a phone. And so you've got to really consider a lot. Some people have had like the mobile experience be completely different, and so it has different images, different text. Google is only looking at that version, and also at only looking at how fast it loads on phone. It doesn't matter if it loads really fast on the desktop. It's about how fast it loads on phone, and that user experience on the phone is really all Google cares about when ranking you.
Period. End of sentence. So mobile is really the primary thing right now. Then you darn well better be picking up your your phone and looking at your website. Wow. That's huge. Well, I'm glad I asked that question. I didn't realize that it was that significant. That's incredible.
Yeah. And they've got these new things called Core Web Vitals, which are 3 different metrics that they use to measure your speed. So it's not just about the actual raw speed of how many seconds it takes to load. There's a few different ways that they measure it, which is more encompassing of the user experience. So it's like, how long does the biggest piece take to load? How long does it take after you first click for things to start happening? And how much does things shift around on the page as it loads? So it's a more sort of holistic way of looking at the user experience.
And they're using AI to determine whether things are kind of bumping around on the screen while they're loading, or?
So they're just measuring the shift of the elements as it loads.
And is that, I know it seems like people always want things animated. Is that taken into consideration? I mean, I guess it's labeled as animation in the code. So
animations is a different thing. It's about the boundaries of the element. So if an animation would be here, it's more about a button being there and then shifting down. So and then an ad appears and you click on the ad instead accidentally, or stuff like that. It's that kind of frustrating user experience that you try to open the menu, but the menu's over here now, and you've got to
I've experienced that.
So that's more that's the user experience that they're trying to improve, is to make sure that when it loads, everything's in the right spot, and it doesn't shift around.
Well, that's positive. That sounds like a very good thing.
That's it. Like all these Google changes, they quite often are very scary as a website owner, but they're all done to improve the user experience. As someone Googling and going to a website, Google wants to make sure that you're not frustrated by doing that. And so the websites that are built well, that give a good experience, are the ones that rise to the top. That's what Google wants to show to people.
And do they offer something? I know this is the Google Web Console. That's what it's called, right?
Search Console, yeah.
Search Console. What else can people use if they're listening and they don't have you or a web developer, and they're like, I don't know how well I'm doing with this new algorithm thing, or maybe that's why I'm having problems with my SEO or whatever. Like, is there a way for them, just a quick win or a quick tip for them to go check?
Yeah, definitely. So Page Speed Insights is the best one to check out. So Google Page Speed Insights will give you the scores and metrics of how well your site loads. It shows you the mobile version first, and gives you a few basic tips on how to improve it as well. Cool. Some of it's a bit technical, but yeah.
So what about us who have podcasts and video? Any recommendations for us, or something that I'm assuming that Google knows that those are heavier things, and most of us are, we have a host that's serving up the video and or the audio, but is there anything to know around that?
Yeah. Sometimes with video, it can be better if it doesn't load at the very top of the page. So having your text heading in a bit of an intro at the top, and then your video just a little bit further down the page can be better, because Google are mostly measuring the first part of the experience. So how the top of the page loads, and it's quite easy with in WordPress in particular to delay the loading of those heavier elements. So the video script and your podcast player, if they are a bit further down the page, then we can make sure the top part loads quickly, and then those other elements load after that.
It sounds like it's context, like the person needs to know the context of the page. So the title should pop up, like even if it's a landing page, they should be seeing like whatever the name of the landing page is, like right first, and then maybe the giant video or image or whatever, and then maybe some of the context, the meat.
Yeah, and this is even apart from podcasts and videos, all pages, it's a better user experience to avoid having those large images or background videos or sliders, galleries at the top of the page. You don't want to have that. It's much better to have a very simple, light, maybe a background color or texture or something like that. An image, especially on the phone, having those nice large images that look great on the desktop as a background behind your heading, when you go down to a phone size, you can't make out what it is. So you're loading this big heavy image and it's not actually adding any value. Yeah. So you're better off just having a very plain background that's going to load fast, have your headline and a subheading. And if it's like an article or something like that, having a bit of an intro text at the top. So that the other part of this, apart from the load speed, is when people arrive at a page, like they've clicked on it from Facebook or something like that, or they've done a Google search and they've clicked on that page, they want to know that they're in the right place. They want to know that this page is going to give them the information that they're looking for. So having that introduction at the top, rather than some really slow loading image and some other graphics, and you've got to scroll down a bit to work out, what is this page about?
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah, getting straight at the top, start giving people the information that they're looking for, start introducing them or teasing them about what's further down the article, that sort of thing, to encourage people to read further. Because like we said, that people's attention is something you've got to fight for, and you've got to grab their attention and then spark their interest, and that's how they're going to read through your content. If it seems boring at the top, or it seems like it's not really what they thought it was from the heading that they clicked on or the ad or whatever, then that they might not keep scrolling down. They might just hit back.
Right. That's a really good tip. And I know that, so you have two parts of your business. You have the WordPress part, and then you have the 10X Pro part, which not everyone has heard of 10X Pro. And that's what you're helping me with. And you are one of the rare people who actually does know what it is, and you know what you're doing. You have an amazing team. But just because WordPress is so much more prevalent, I wonder if you can, again, for the quick tips part, I know that myself and many of the other people that I work with who are, they're creating blogs or whatever, they end up piling on all of these plugins, and it becomes like this smorgasbord of plugins, and they don't really realize, like sometimes they don't even know, and I was guilty of this too at different times, which one of these is actually working, which one do I need? Can I turn it off? Can I delete it? Do you have tips on that? Because I know that is a huge impact on speed. Also, I think it doesn't affect some of the safety, the hacking as well. Yeah. So I'd love for you to comment on that.
For sure. Yeah, it is definitely better to stay as lean as possible when it comes to those things, and really make sure that every plugin on your site justifies its existence, and you can't replace it with something else or something better, or just get rid of it entirely and make some customizations to the website that are going to achieve the same result. It's definitely better from a security point of view, because all those plugins need to be updated at different times, and the more you have, the more likely it is that one of them is made by a developer who doesn't exist anymore, or has switched business or whatever, and is not supporting that plugin anymore. And therefore, when security holes are found, that plugin doesn't get updated to patch for that security hole, and that's a problem. So we make sure that all of the plugins on our clients' websites are well supported, and that they're up to date. And we do a plugin audit when people come over to our service, and just sort of go through and say these ones you should get rid of. We recommend switching to this one, or these three are doing the same thing. Just pick one, that sort of thing.
Right.
And yeah, definitely speed can be an issue. And I think it's very common. I've seen this a lot. It's not. It's sort of something that everyone does when you're starting out, especially. You just want to test your idea, so you just you want to make sure that you've got a good business model. So you do whatever's easiest to get the ball rolling, and then you find things along the way that need to be tweaked and changed and adjusted. And you might have at that stage, you need to get a different developer to do different bits and pieces, and so they add in their preferred plugin, or they do things their way, and so it does get to a point, and this is usually when clients come to us, is that they've got their business is going really well. They've got the winning formula. They've got an offer that converts. They're making money, and they really just need to get their website to level up to where their business is now up to, and they've collected this Frankenstein monster website of bits and pieces chucked together, and we need to come in and tidy it up and refresh it, and strip it back to what's essential, and make sure that it's a lean money making machine.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I have to say that I love that you have that you're really proactive, but even just your own funnel for your clients. It's really nice that you're just sending, every few days, a little check-in, a little reminder about SEO or images or plugins, or like whatever the thing is, titles of pages, even. Like you've really thought of it all, and it's very customer centric. So I really appreciate that. I guess I'm really curious too, and I know you're down under, and so you're where 10X Pro came from, but what made you jump into working with 10X Pro? And I will just say real quick. So I started using 10X Pro, I guess I started last year. It's not cheap, so I don't recommend it to everybody. But what I do like about it, because I have a bigger idea and I've already spent money on the WordPress stuff and decided like I need something else that works for me. And I like that it's an all-in-one. So you can have your courses, you can have your funnel, your quizzes, your website, your landing pages. There's like so many things there. There's the university, so you can learn, and there's like it's amazing. I think it's bi-weekly, monthly support from John, who started it. He'll get on to everybody and he'll ask questions, and he literally does respond and build in features based on what's happening with us as his clients. But what made you jump into that? Was it just there was no one else doing it?
I have been working with WordPress for over 10 years, and for me that's been my main focus, and so I wasn't really interested in working with other software. I decided, right, WordPress is what I'm going to specialize in, and just blinkers on, not going to worry about other stuff that's out there. But one of the problems that we ran into was that WordPress can get really cumbersome and problematic when it comes to memberships in particular. And we support a number of WordPress memberships, and we've built a few, and each one just requires so many different bits and pieces to be plugged together and to talk to each other. And with the regular updates that happen, things break all the time, and it creates a horrible user experience, and it also costs a lot to host, because there's a lot going on there in terms of the resources that website uses. You need to have a large server to support it, and so there was just so many problems that we kept running into. I didn't want to take on any more WordPress membership websites. I didn't want to do any custom stuff like that. And so I was looking around for solutions. I had actually heard of 10X Pro before that, and I just sort of dismissed it as another software that I was going to ignore. But then I actually happened to spend some time with the owner, and he sort of showed me through it. I hadn't really looked at it much myself, but when he showed me through it, I realized actually it's got everything you need. It's pretty solid. And it's awesome that he is very proactive with the development. And like you say, it is a high monthly cost, but because of that, that allows him to put the effort into developing it and making sure that it's really good and continuing it. I think it can be a problem with cheap or free software that you get what you pay for, and
Totally.
so and although it is a high fixed monthly cost, it's actually cheaper than running a large membership on WordPress because the setup cost is a lot cheaper because it's just so much extra work up front to build things out like that in WordPress. So it's a lot less work in the initial setup, but then also when you combine the cost of a lot of the plugins and the extra hosting and all the bits and pieces that would be required to do that with WordPress, it actually comes out to about the same or a bit cheaper depending on your situation to run. So I definitely recommend going with 10X Pro for membership sites and even so apart from just membership sites itself, like it's really great at that and courses, but it's also just a really easy solution for having that shopping cart to sell products. And it's
I think just based on what you just said too, it's just like when you're becoming an entrepreneur, like let's say you have a 9 to 5 or you're a consultant and you're starting with a service or some small product, you really don't know what you're in for down the road. And I think that what I like about it is it's just so scalable. It's like, okay, maybe you're only using the membership part and you're selling a few small things and you don't have a very complex setup, but it can grow with you. And you have that support that is, I think, absent. Like I've used Kajabi, I've used a bunch of different things that you're tearing your hair out trying to get it to work or talk to this other thing, or it just doesn't function the way that you want it to. And I have friends who've, they've spent a lot of money on ClickFunnels because they know that they're one funnel away and they spend all that money and they, it's just one solution, but then they're fighting with it. So I just feel like some of these tools that are, I know there's another one, Kartra, there's a bunch of them out there, but I feel like considering those, at least, even though they're a little more expensive sometimes, really does make sense. Even though we know WordPress is kind of the big king of the web at the moment.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is, and this is something that I've sort of compromised on a bit with 10X Pro, but I think it's definitely worth it, especially in those membership situations. But one of the things I really like about WordPress is that you have full ownership and control to customize it however you want. And some of those other solutions, that's one of the reasons why I decided to just stick to WordPress. Some of those other solutions, you can run into a lot of problems. And so you might, it's often good, like, and also even just the simple website builders and things like that, the Wix and the Squarespace, it's okay to, Shopify is another one, to like test an idea and to see if this business is going to work for you when you're getting started. But you quickly run into limitations and you don't really own your website assets and stuff. They can change the rules on you, pull the rug out from under you. You can have things, the way that their platform works might change and there's nothing you can do about it. So having your own website that you own and control is a better long-term solution. And I think really WordPress is still the best for that, and also for creating a library of content. Like if you're going to have your podcast and that sort of thing, you got to make sure that you you control the traffic that are going to that podcast, and you can have those people contact you directly or sign up to your mailing list, or you're going to have that as a people can find you through Google, find that exact same podcast in 10 years time. They're not only going to find it if they're on Spotify in the month that you publish it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's a good reason to have a website, period, I think, right? Yeah. And so that's the other thing. I mean, I think you just hit the nail on the head. Is just like why do we need a website? Like, what do you say when people say, well, do I really need a website? What's your response to that?
Definitely.
Yes.
I think,
Why?
yeah, absolutely. Yes. And I think I'll quote Shramko here. James Shramko's got a really good line that you should own the race course. And I think that's a good one to sort of always keep in mind, is that you don't want to be the racehorse on someone else's race course, like having just a Facebook page, because Facebook change their rules more regularly than I take my bins out, so the rules are constantly shifting, and they and there's a whole range of reasons why, but you might just be caught out. And I've seen this over the last 10 years time and time again, in various different ways, that some social media platforms or some ways of making money just fall aside. People change. They're not using Facebook anymore. Now they moved over to Instagram. They're just the market changes and shifts, and it might not be that they change the rules. It might just be that things are not done the same way anymore, or there's a variety of reasons, but you want to make sure that you have a solid platform that's going to last, and that people can come to you from wherever. And so you can shift how people find you, but they're always going to find you and arrive at your website that you control. And you can have your assets there, that your content, and people can buy from you, and that sort of thing.
Cool. That's a good answer. All right. Nice. Well, so where can people find you if they're thinking, I got to work with that guy? What's the best way to find you, Justin?
Yeah, well, either 10X Pro, Tuned10X, Tuned10X, or for WordPress, the TunedWP.com. We've got for WordPress, we've got a performance audit that we can do for people if they're interested in finding out if there's ways that we can improve their website. There's it's currently free, but it won't be for much longer.
Okay.
But you can jump on and just get a quick audit, and there will go through your site and give you a bunch of recommendations. You can either get our help with it or get someone else to do it. It's up to you.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, this has been super helpful. I really appreciate all your tips and insights, and hopefully some people listening will come and check you out, because I think, your team is amazing. You guys are super on top of things. And even though you're in a much different time zone, it always works to my benefit as far as I can see. So I'm really happy with what you're doing. Can't say enough about you. Yeah.
That's great to hear.
Cool. Thank you. Well, so good to see you, Justin. I hope you have an amazing day.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.